Before diving into the video, did you know that over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? Your one like and one subscribe means the absolute world to this channel and helps us keep going. Hit those buttons real quick and let's get into the video. Prologue. The Birthday Ultimatum. July 1st. It was Vivian's birthday. It was also the second week of the silent treatment between us. That afternoon, she called me. She asked if I had nothing to say to her today. The next second, I nodded. Then I said, I agree to the divorce. Vivian froze for a moment. Then she replied, That's not what I meant. At least not today. I gave a soft hum. Then I said, Then consider it my birthday gift to you. Chapter 1. The Birthday Gift. Today was Vivian's birthday. It was also the 12th day of our silent treatment. That afternoon, she called me and asked, Do you really have nothing to say to me today? I froze for 2 seconds, glanced at my phone, and checked the date again. For a moment, I actually didn't know how to respond. I only gave a quiet hum and said, Happy birthday. She asked again, That's all? Nothing else? I fell silent. She said, You. I said, I. We spoke at the same time, then we both fell silent again. Vivian said, Then you go first. I didn't refuse. I said, I agree to the divorce. What? Vivian seemed a little stunned. I spoke again. I said, I agree to the divorce. Chapter 2. The Fall of the Protégé. 15 days ago, Vivian asked me for a divorce. That morning, I had been out of town discussing business. In the afternoon, I rushed back to the company and fired Kaido in front of everyone. The scene got pretty ugly, but Kaido remained very restrained, neither servile nor overbearing. He simply took off his employee badge and said, word by word, I quit. He packed up his things and went back to his hometown that very day. 2 hours later, Vivian found out. She called me immediately. Her voice was icy, but it was clearly suppressing her anger. Julian, you've gone too far. I'm going to find him. When he comes back, you will apologize to him. Otherwise, I'm divorcing you. Vivian rushed to Kaido's hometown overnight, and she stayed there for 2 days. She managed to convince him to come back, but she didn't come home. She only sent me a message. Until you do what you promised me, I won't come back. What I promised her? Apologize? There was no way I was apologizing. She could come home or not. I didn't care, as if I was begging her to come back. Mark said Vivian had complained about me a lot to her best friends, and plenty of people outside were gossiping about me. They said I was a scumbag and a heartless jerk, that once I had her, I stopped cherishing her. They said, women who ask for nothing are usually the ones who lose the worst. Back when Vivian got together with me, she had never asked for anything. That was exactly why she wasn't cherished. Then Mark changed the subject and asked, Speaking of Kaido, what exactly did he do to piss you off? Chapter 3. The Humble Junior. That was a long story. Kaido was a poor student sponsored by the Vance family. He was also Vivian Vance's junior from the same academic department. They had both been Professor Miller's students. Professor Miller thought highly of Kaido. He said Kaido was smart and hardworking, and his only problem was that his family wasn't well off. So Vivian gave him a little help, and Kaido was someone who knew how to repay kindness. He carried bags of things and waited downstairs outside the company for Vivian for a very long time. He gave Vivian those local specialties from his hometown. He said that after he graduated, he would join the Vance family's company. Vance Enterprises wasn't easy to get into. Vivian curled her lips slightly and said, I won't give you any special treatment. Kaido promised solemnly, I'll get in with my own ability. When they said those words, I was sitting in the car. I heard everything clearly through the window. Vivian thought this person was rather interesting. I thought the same. He had the spirit of youth, full of ambition and vitality. He was indeed eye-catching. Back then, I genuinely didn't take it to heart. Chapter 4. The Wooden Puppet. At that time, Vivian and I had only been married for 2 years. Our relationship was very good. She was very clingy with me in daily life. No matter whether it was something big or small, she was used to sharing it with me right away. As long as I went on a business trip out of town, her messages would come one after another, as if she wished she could know what I was doing every second. And every time I went on a business trip, I would bring her gifts. I asked her what she wanted. Her request was simple enough. I like expensive things. So bracelets, necklaces, bags, I was never stingy with her. Until that time when I came back from Italy, I brought her a gold watch, and she liked it very much. But when I got home, I found a craft paper bag in the living room. When I opened it, there was a palm-sized Pinocchio inside. It wasn't worth much. At a glance, it looked like a handmade trinket bought from a roadside stall, but it was interesting. I deliberately took it out in front of Vivian and was about to place it on the display shelf. She suddenly stood up and took it from my hand. In a panicked tone, she explained, "A friend gave it to me." I asked who. She lowered her eyes and said nothing. After a long while, she said it was Kaido. He got a scholarship, so he gave me a small gift. By then, more than half a year had passed since the first time I heard Kaido's name. I felt a little lost and a little unwilling to believe it. I asked, "You two are still in contact?" I checked Vivian's phone. They had added each other as contacts long ago. The first message Kaido sent her was, "Senior Vance, I'm Kaido." Vivian didn't reply. Half a month later, Kaido won a debate competition. He took a photo of the trophy and sent it to Vivian. 2 days later, Vivian replied, "You don't need to send me these." But Kaido said, "I do. I want you to know that I haven't wasted the Vance family's money." From then on, every achievement he made, he would send to Vivian first. Vivian didn't reply much, only the occasional few messages. Got it, keep it up." Vivian didn't think there was anything wrong with it. But after I expressed my opinion, she still deleted Kaido, although she stayed silent for a very long time. From then on, they stopped contacting each other. Like hell they did. If they really had stopped contacting each other, there wouldn't have been so many things afterward, and we wouldn't have ended up at the point of divorce. Chapter 5. 3 Reminders. Vivian and I got our divorce certificate very quickly. After she confirmed that I was serious about divorce, she stayed silent for a long time. Her tone was conflicted as she said, "That's not what I meant, at least not today." She hadn't come home or contacted me for 12 days. She was just trying to force me to bow my head and apologize to Kaido. She said Kaido didn't have it easy getting to where he is now. Everything he has today he earned through his own hard work. "Julian, you shouldn't use the power in your hands to make things difficult for someone else." Vivian said Kaido had it hard. That was why she personally helped Kaido revise his resume. That was why when Kaido went to Vance Enterprises for an interview, she told Vivian's father that Kaido was her junior. Kaido successfully got the job. Vivian gave him a custom-made suit as a congratulatory gift. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. They didn't sleep together. There was only mutual admiration between them. Vivian asked in confusion, "Why are you so determined to ruin him?" Actually, I wasn't trying to ruin him. I only reminded her 3 times. The first time, I told her not to contact Kaido anymore. The second time, I told her I didn't agree with Kaido joining the company. The third time, I fired Kaido. Vivian and I had been together for 7 years. 3 reminders were enough. Any more than that, and I would be wronging myself. So I said to Vivian, it doesn't matter anymore. Whether she and Kaido had crossed the line or not, what kind of relationship they had, whether they were the ones who didn't know their boundaries, or whether I was the one being narrow-minded. None of it mattered anymore. I said, let's get divorced. Chapter 6. The Clean Break. There was no argument, no accusations. Vivian and I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau one after the other. Kaido was there too. He stood beside the car like a beautiful bodyguard. Vivian pressed her lips together and asked if I wanted to have one last meal together. I replied, no need. Then I said, by the way, are you free this afternoon? I'll go back to the marital home and clear out the rest of my things. When it came to dividing assets with Vivian, I basically didn't ask for anything except money. Don't misunderstand. Properties like the villa and cars were converted into cash according to their market value. As for the shares in the company under my name, she didn't ask for a single cent of them either. She was the one who brought that up herself. So naturally, I had no reason to pretend to be generous and insist on splitting them with her. After all, everyone said I was a heartless jerk. I had no reason to keep acting like some deeply devoted gentleman. After the divorce, Vivian's expression looked terrible. She frowned and said, do you really have to do this? You can go there anytime. I nodded and drove straight to the villa. On the way, I contacted a moving company. By the time I arrived, they were already waiting outside the door. One afternoon, 3 hours, I cleared out everything in the villa that had anything to do with me. When I left, I placed the scarf she had once knitted for me by the entrance. From that moment on, the love and marriage between Vivian and me were completely over. Chapter 7. The Confrontation on the Green. For the next week, I was very busy. Mark called me several times, but I turned him down each time. He finally got anxious. If you still refuse to come out, we're done as friends. I had no choice. Yawning, I went. He had invited a group of men and women. They played a few rounds of golf. I sat on a lounge chair and dozed off twice. That sleepy? How many days has it been since you slept? Did you work overtime again? Mark never understood my workaholic nature. He liked money too, but he liked having fun even more. In his words, I make money so I can eat, drink, and enjoy life. If making money isn't for having fun, then making money has no joy at all. To that, I could only say he still didn't like money enough. After chatting idly for a bit, I checked the time. I said, I'm leaving. You guys have fun. Fine. Although Mark wasn't happy about it, he didn't try to keep me. I got up to leave. The moment I turned around, I happened to see Vivian walking over, and the person beside her was none other than Kaido. Mark's face darkened. What are you doing here? Then he swore to me. I swear to God I didn't invite him. Vivian frowned slightly, but said nothing. Her gaze stayed fixed on me the entire time. I pretended not to notice. I patted Mark's shoulder reassuringly. Then I said, I'm heading out first. I had only taken 2 steps when Kaido suddenly spoke. His face was a little pale, but his tone was still restrained and forbearing. Mr. Sterling, I know you don't want to see me. I came at the wrong time and disturbed you. I'll leave now. The moment Vivian heard that, she was unhappy. She looked at me angrily and said to Kaido, Leave? Why should you leave? Where are you going? Chloe hurried over with her bag in hand. She looked at Kaido, then turned to look at me, her gaze instantly understanding everything. She was clearly a little upset, but she still suppressed her temper and acted coquettishly. Brother, what are you doing? I was the one who invited Kaido. I left my bag in a car just now, so the 2 of them came in first. For my sake, can you please stop making things difficult for Kaido? I looked at Chloe, and a laugh slipped from my nose. I said, For your sake? Who the hell are you? You. Chloe exploded with anger in an instant. From the look of it, she was about to tear into me. Vivian spoke up. That's enough, Chloe, stop making a scene. She glared at Chloe, then she turned the same look on me. But I had never been the type to cave under pressure. I said, and one more thing, don't call me brother-in-law. Vivian and I are already divorced. Chapter 8. Drawing the line. Clearly, Vivian hadn't told anyone about our divorce. Maybe whenever she ran into questions she didn't know how to answer, she simply chose not to speak. But Chloe was a blabbermouth. If she knew, that basically meant the whole world knew. You're welcome. I walked past them and slowly left. Vivian chased after me, with confusion and resentment in her voice. She questioned me, Do you really have to act like this? I didn't understand. Like what? She pressed her lips tightly together. Don't play dumb, Julian. You heard it too. Chloe was the one who invited Kaido. You should be able to tell that Chloe likes Kaido. So why are you still acting like this? There was dissatisfaction in her questioning. I couldn't really understand it. I said, Vivian, we're already divorced. What does any of this have to do with me? She clenched her hands tightly, took a deep breath and said, Are you seriously saying you're not leaving because of Kaido? I nodded. Of course I dare say that. I just happened to be leaving, and you just happened to arrive. Of course, even if I hadn't been about to leave, I still would have left once you arrived. I can't stand the sight of him, and seeing you makes me sick too. Why would I stay here and make myself miserable? Chapter 9. Card Table Origins. I said it casually. I acted as if I had cut through the mess with one clean strike. No hesitation, no dragging things out. Looking at Vivian's flushed face and the anger in her eyes, I would be lying if I said it didn't feel satisfying. But that satisfaction only lasted half a minute. I drove away. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Vivian standing there. I also saw Kaido walking toward her. And me? My face was expressionless. My eyes were dead and heavy. There was no way I wasn't sad, and there was no way I could just walk away and immediately be over it. 7 years. Vivian and I had taken 7 years to get to this point. Speaking of which, back in college, she was the one who pursued me first. We met because of Mark. Vivian and Mark were childhood friends, and Mark was my roommate. At that time, Mark and I weren't that close yet. He often hung out with Vivian and the others. Playing cards was one of their usual forms of entertainment. Mark had terrible luck. Every time he gambled, he lost. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Later, by chance, I heard him on the phone. He said he had lost nearly 2,000 and that he would definitely win it back next time. So, I volunteered myself. I said, Let me help you. I'll take 20% of whatever I win. My father died early. My mother raised me at card tables. Other people played cards for fun. She played cards like it was a job, and a job meant getting paid. On good days, she made 200 or 300. On bad days, a few dozen. It was more than enough to support both her and me. Because of her influence, during the summer after my college entrance exam, I earned enough money in the card rooms to pay for 1 semester of tuition. At first, Mark was half convinced and half doubtful. He brought me to the game. In half a day, I won back 4,000 for him. Mark was overjoyed and extremely smug. I took 800 as my cut, and he treated me to hot pot. We were both very happy, but I also felt a little regretful. A casual game like that wasn't really about winning or losing. He would probably only ask me once. But I didn't expect that 2 days later, Mark said someone else wanted me to play for her too. If I won, I could take 50%. The person who wanted my help was Vivian. It wasn't until the game was nearly over that I realized something was off. Vivian was good at cards too. She usually won. So, why would she ask me to play for her? I turned back to look at her. She was looking at me too. Her eyes were curved with a faint smile, as if she had been waiting for me to turn around all along. Chapter 10. The by-the-book betrayal. I drank a lot at today's business dinner. It had been a long time since I had drunk myself to this state. That Hong Kong businessman loved alcohol like his life depended on it, and his tolerance seemed bottomless. But if drinking a few more glasses with him meant securing the agency rights, then so be it. At least the nearly half a month I had been busy wouldn't go to waste. After seeing him off, I could barely stand steady anymore. I took a deep breath and sat down in the hotel lobby. My head was spinning badly. I lowered my head and propped it up with my interlaced hands. Just then, a pair of high heels stopped in front of me. I narrowed my eyes and followed the legs upward. A black skirt, a white shirt, then a familiar face. Vivian. She stood in front of me, leaning down slightly, her brows faintly furrowed. She asked, "How much did you drink?" I laughed, stood up, and said, "Not much. I can still recognize you." She didn't respond. She only reached out to support me. "I'll take you home." I tilted my head slightly and pushed her hand away. "Vivian, I secured the agency rights for that Mozambique ruby vein." Those words softened Vivian's expression a little. She gave a quiet hum and said, "I knew you could do it." Honestly, that made me laugh from anger right there. On top of the dizziness and nausea, I truly didn't want to say another word to her. I waved my hand impatiently and said, "Stay away from me. You're blocking my fresh air." Vivian frowned and said, "I know you're upset, but in this matter, Kaido didn't do anything wrong. 2 months ago, I took on a large order from the Vance family. CEO Vance wanted to customize a collector-grade jewelry set. For that jewelry set, as well as for long-term development afterward, I needed to secure the agency rights for the Mozambique ruby vein. But they only worked with familiar clients. So I brought it up with Vivian's father, who was my father-in-law at the time. He agreed immediately and said he would help me sign the recommender section. I would deliver the documents, he would sign them, everyone would be happy. That was how it should have gone. That was usually how things had gone before. But this time, the documents I sent over were returned. They weren't returned by Vivian's father. They were returned by Kaido. He overstepped his position and acted on someone else's behalf, saying it didn't follow the rules. He said the chairman couldn't sign a document like that. That was the whole story behind why I fired him in public. He crossed the line. But Vivian said he hadn't done anything wrong. She said he was simply handling business by the book. I nodded and clapped my hands. Excellent. Handling business by the book. Beautifully said. Then, Miss Vance, I'd like to ask you something. When you put in a word at the company and said he was your junior, were you also handling business by the book? When you let him use the private elevator, were you also handling business by the book? Did you forget something? You were my damn wife. Actually, saying all this now was pretty pointless. But people who drank too much always carried a bit of irrationality with them. I rubbed the back of my neck and said, "Vivian, why don't you just sleep with Kaido?" Vivian's expression froze. She bit her lip and said, "Julian, what nonsense are you talking about?" I let out a cold laugh. I said, "The fact that you haven't slept with Kaido often makes me annoyed." My steps were unsteady as I staggered toward the exit. "Julian," Vivian spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was cold as ice. She said, "Julian, are you hoping I'll cheat? Or are you hoping that after I cheat, you can use it against me and force me to walk away with nothing? I really must have been blind back then to fall for scum like you. The day I asked you for a divorce, I was only testing you. But when I said I didn't want the shares in your company, you actually planned not to give me any." Her eyes were red, and her voice was full of disappointment. She said, "I was too love-blinded before. That was why I followed you without asking for anything. Now I figured it out. Just like everyone says, if a man truly loves a woman, he's willing to give everything for her. If you can't even give her money, why marry a wife at all?" Chapter 11. The Echoes of Manipulation. When Vivian and I were dating, Mark had warned me. He told me not to get too invested, because the more I put in, the more painful it would be when we separated. He didn't think Vivian and I would last. He was certain Vivian and I would break up sooner or later. Why? Because the gap between us was too big. I was too poor, and she was a rich heiress. But I had never been the type to torture myself over things, and I never accepted emotional manipulation. Since Vivian was pursuing me, and I liked her too, why shouldn't we be together? I wouldn't feel unworthy of her just because our family backgrounds were different. Some people said that as a man, if you didn't have financial strength and couldn't give a woman happiness, then you shouldn't waste her time. I had always sneered at that. What did it mean? A man without money shouldn't waste a woman's time. Why did no one say it the other way around? If a woman had no financial strength and couldn't give a man happiness, then she shouldn't waste his time either. When I said that, some people called me delusionally confident. They said my sense of entitlement was too high. Was it? I didn't think it was high at all. I never asked her to spend money on me, nor did I take it for granted that just because she pursued me, she had to give everything to me. So where exactly was it high? But now she thought I had given too little. She thought I owed her. How interesting. I turned back around. In 2 steps, I closed in on her. Caught off guard, she stumbled. I looked at her and said, word by word, "Kaido told you that, didn't he?" Such pretty words. You must have been so moved, right? You must think he's such a devoted, good man, right? Well, sorry. I'm not like that. I'm not a simp. What belongs to me is mine. If I'm willing to give, it's because I want to, not because I owe anyone anything. Dumbass. Chapter 12. Pigeon Blood Red. After securing the agency rights for the Mozambique mining area, I flew to Bangkok, mainly to attend a stone viewing event. Cut loose stones were far too overpriced. Besides, truly good stones didn't circulate on the open market, and the ones that could be bought usually had almost no rarity. So this time, I wanted rough stones. The venue was full of experts. Boxes of rough stones were laid out across the long tables. Everyone looked at the same batch of goods. What mattered was who had the sharper eye. Holding a tray, I moved from box to box under the light. My heart was completely calm until I opened the 3rd box from the end. Inside lay 7 rough stones weighing more than 80 carats in total. The main selling point of that box was a 40-carat mid-grade piece. The crystal was clean, but the color leaned pink. It wasn't top tier, but it was stable. But what caught my eye was the throw-in beside it. It looked like an ordinary black pebble. Its outer skin was thick and no light passed through. But there was a tiny area on the surface that had been washed smooth by water, revealing an extremely faint hint of red. I switched to a high-powered flashlight and pressed it tightly against the thin spot. In an instant, my heart pounded like a drum. After buying the rough stone, I flew to Thailand. Master Chin had worked in this industry for 40 years. Whenever people in the field mentioned him, they always said the same thing: steady hands. He held the stone and examined it over and over for a very long time. Then he asked, "Preserve weight or preserve color?" I didn't hesitate. Preserve color. Nearly an hour later, Master Chin turned off the machine. 3.8 carats, glass-like clarity, unheated pigeon blood red, rare grade. The dust finally settled in my heart. This trip hadn't been in vain. Over the next half-month, through countless stone viewing events, bids, and cutting sessions, I secured a series of top-grade rubies in different colors, sizes, and cuts. Mission accomplished. Time to head home. Chapter 13. The Elevator Encounter. After returning to the country, I attended another business dinner. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that I finally headed home. I felt like my entire body had been hollowed out. Like a wandering ghost, I drifted along unsteadily. I drifted into the lobby, drifted over, and pressed the elevator button, drifted inside. The next second, my eyelid twitched, and I abruptly stepped back. I instantly sobered up. There was a woman in the elevator. I couldn't even tell whether she was dead or alive. She was slumped in the corner. Even as the elevator doors slowly closed, I still hadn't come back to my senses. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating, until the elevator doors opened again. There really was someone there, and I knew her. "Elena. Miss Sullivan, are you okay?" I pushed her lightly. No response. Her face was deathly pale, as if she had been dead for a while. With a sigh, I called the hospital. At the same time, I found Chloe's name and made a voice call. After quite a long while, she finally picked up. "Julian, why are you calling me?" I said. "Your cousin fainted. She's being sent to the hospital now. You can head out." "Head out? Where?" "Wait, my cousin?" Ignoring Chloe's shouting, I ended the call. At the same time, I took a photo of Elena and sent it to her. Soon, the ambulance arrived. I originally wanted to leave, but the medical staff wouldn't let me. They said someone had to go along with her. One of them asked, What happened before the patient lost consciousness? Where did she go? I knew nothing. All I could do was shake my head. Then they asked, "What is your relationship with the patient?" My voice was numb as I said, "I'm just a kind passerby." I was confused the entire way. First, I lost track of the medical staff. They moved too fast, and after 2 turns, they vanished from sight. By the time I found the emergency room, Elena had already been transferred onto a hospital bed. Then a form was shoved into my hand. The medical staff said, "Register, pay the fees, and see the doctor." You've got to be kidding me. So I said, "Excuse me, where do I register?" Chapter 14, Hospital Halls. Fortunately, Chloe came, and she came quickly. I handed everything to her and was about to leave. But Chloe stopped me. Her face was full of embarrassment. Her eyes darted away, and her voice sounded strained. "Thank you." I waved my hand like I was shooing away a fly. "Helping others is a virtue." She said, "By the way, Julian..." Chloe seemed like she still wanted to say something, but I had already walked far away. But soon, I knew what she had wanted to say. Vivian had come with her. We hadn't seen each other for half a month. There was no feeling like a lifetime had passed, no lingering sadness, no sense of loss, no feeling at all. Good. I was very satisfied with my ability to adapt. "Julian, why did you drink so much again? Were you out messing around?" "I can't hear you. I can't hear you." I walked past her and headed outside. "Julian." Vivian grabbed me. I suddenly raised my hand and shook her off, but I didn't control my strength and slapped her hand away. I said, "None of your damn business. We're divorced. Stop bothering me." Chloe chased after me and happened to see that scene, which made her even more embarrassed. I was too tired. I had no interest in admiring the complicated expressions on their faces. I turned and left. Chloe glanced at Vivian, gritted her teeth, and still chased after me. You've been drinking. Why don't you let me drive you back?" Chapter 15, The Mirror of Attention. When we first met, Chloe's attitude toward me had been fine, courteous and polite. But as I targeted Kaido again and again, her opinion of me grew worse and worse. She probably hadn't expected me to agree. Under Vivian's gaze, all she could do was lower her head. On the way back, she didn't say a word either. I leaned against the seat back and fell asleep before long. It wasn't until the car stopped that I opened my eyes. Then I saw Chloe's hand reaching out, about to wake me up. I said, "Thanks." She shook her head. "It's nothing." I opened the door and got out, but she called after me, "Julian, actually, there really is nothing between Vivian and Kaido. I can testify to that." She had probably hesitated for a long time before saying those words. I turned around, holding the car door. Then I smiled and said, "I heard you like red wine. I have a bottle of 2015 Mouton. I'll send it to you another day." Chloe froze, blinked, and said, No, that's not necessary." The corners of my lips lifted. "You're opening a shop with your friends recently, right? If there's anything you don't understand, you can come ask me. I'll help you take a look." Huh. Chloe was already stunned. I continued, "Also, it's best to keep a jacket in the car. The air conditioning can get cold. Don't catch a chill." This time, Chloe sucked in a sharp breath. The way she looked at me was already filled with fear. At that, I gave a cold laugh and let my expression fall. I said, "What? You think I'm interested in you?" I only acted attentive for a couple of sentences, "But Vivian and Kaido have been like this for 2 years, and you still think they're innocent?" Chloe froze. My indifferent gaze swept over her. I said, "Little girl, stop wasting your time on Kaido. He doesn't like you." Chapter 16, Stripping the Moral High Ground. Why did I say those things to Chloe? Simply because I had nothing better to do. I knew Vivian too well. She had deliberately followed Chloe there. She had come for me. As soon as I got home, she called me. "Julian, do you really have to be like this? Can we not even be friends anymore?" I lifted a corner of the curtain and looked outside. Vivian was downstairs. I asked in confusion, "Can you really not change? What are you talking about?" She didn't understand. I said, "Is this habit of being friends with men who aren't your husband something you just can't fix?" All at once, the other end of the phone fell silent. I had no interest in listening to her breathing, so I hung up. Mark asked me if there was any chance Vivian regretted it. He said a few days ago, Vivian had gathered with her friends. A few people started running their mouths. "What's so special about a poor guy who married up like Julian? He acts like he's hot shit. Who does he think he is? Someone like him was never worthy of our Vivian in the first place." Someone else said, "That's why girls must marry up. If you marry down, he won't be grateful. He'll just think he's capable and charming." They spouted nonsense and laughed loudly. Mark heard them and was ready to rush over at once. But before he could step forward, Vivian slapped one of them across the face. Her voice was cold as she said, "If you don't want your tongue anymore, cut it off." Feeling like she can't let you go. "Tell me, do you think she regrets it?" I sneered at that. Vivian regretted it? No, she didn't. She was just uncomfortable. Back then, I cared about her relationship with Kaido. That sudden discomfort of mine made her think I was being petty. She placed the blame on me. She believed I was the one in the wrong. The more I tried to reason with her, the more she felt I was wrong. And the more wrong I was, the more it proved she wasn't wrong. But when I suddenly pulled away, when I stopped talking, stopped explaining, stopped arguing with her about right and wrong, my silence and indifference stripped away her moral high ground. She began to doubt herself. Had she really gone too far? I said, "So you see, reason is only meant for people with brains." Mark asked me again, "Then what about you? Have you really forgotten Vivian?" This answer I was very certain about. No. Vivian and I had 7 years, a quarter of my life. There was no way I could erase her from my memory. But what I could do was this. I allowed her to exist, but her existence would no longer affect me. Chapter 17, Crimson Legend. As the gemstone materials arrived, I further refined the design draft. This set, Crimson Legend, had 7 individual pieces. The main stone for the necklace had to be over 5 carats, a pair of earrings 2 carats each. Matching stones like that were relatively hard to find. The other pieces needed different shades to create layers, along with some accent stones. I went to several more stone viewing events and finally matched everything. I took the raw materials and the finalized design to the Vance family. Mrs. Vance had a sharp eye. The moment her gaze swept over the safe, a smile appeared on her face. It seemed she was satisfied. After that, I spent the entire afternoon making the final adjustments. That very night, I boarded a plane and went to the setting workshop I worked with. For other orders, I didn't need to make the trip myself, but for this set, I absolutely had to go there in person to communicate every detail. The next day, I returned home. I planned to give myself 2 days off. That afternoon, Chloe called me and asked if I was home. I asked in confusion, "What are you trying to do?" She sent me a voice message. She said, "My cousin said she wants to come by and thank you in person." After that, they came over. Elena was graceful and composed. There was a perfectly measured smile on her lips, and every movement of hers was appropriate. She also brought a thank you gift. It was a piece of Brazilian tourmaline rough, over 10,000, but less than 20,000. I didn't refuse it. I accepted it openly. "Thanks." She pressed her lips into a smile and said, "Actually, aside from thanking you, there's one more thing I'd like to trouble you with, Mr. Sterling." I raised my brows. "Go ahead." She said directly, "My grandmother's 70th birthday is next month. I want to give her a set of jade jewelry as a birthday gift. I wonder if Mr. Sterling would be willing to help." She was bringing me business, so I took out my phone. "Then let's add each other as contacts." Chapter 18, The Illusion Shatters. Chloe had come with Elena. She looked listless and hadn't spoken the whole time. After Elena and I finished talking and Elena was about to get up and leave, Chloe suddenly said, "Sis, you go first. I'll stay a little longer." Elena frowned and looked at her. Chloe sounded perfectly justified. "You're already getting jade jewelry as a birthday gift. Shouldn't I prepare something too?" All right, hurry up and go." Elena looked at me questioningly. I smiled kindly and said, "It's fine." And just like that, Elena left while Chloe stayed behind. She sprawled across the table as if she had no bones. I ignored her. After a long time, she finally spoke in an aggrieved voice. "I confessed to Kaido. He rejected me." I was speechless. I said, "I don't provide relationship counseling." Chloe choked on my words. She pouted and said, "Then I'll order a set too." Well, in that case, what else was there to say? I asked. "So, what do you want to talk to me about?" Chloe didn't know either. Kaido had rejected her. His reason was that he didn't want to date for now and only wanted to focus on his career. "Julian, Kaido likes Vivian, doesn't he?" Did she really need to ask that? Did she not have eyes? Could she not see for herself? So I spoke patiently, guiding her along. "If your mother knew a woman like this." Impossible. Before I could finish, Chloe had already stood up in agitation. The way she reacted made it seem as if her father would be cheated on the very next second. The answer was obvious. Chloe's expression became wonderfully complicated. First she was confused, then shocked, then frightened, and finally she froze completely. She asked, "If that's the case, why does everyone say it's your fault?" My tone was calm. People watching the drama need an emotional outlet. A scumbag, a heartless jerk, clearly fits the story they want to tell much better. Chapter 19. The Jade Expedition. The workshop couldn't be rushed. The master gave me a 4-month timeline. Every 2 weeks, I flew over once. I kept an eye on the process and coordinated details with the master. During that time, Elena and I met a few times. When it came to choosing jade, the first thing that mattered was that it had to feel smooth, warm, and pleasant against the skin. I asked Elena what kind she wanted. She looked confused. She said directly that she didn't understand it and asked me to recommend something for her. My first recommendation was Haitian jade. Mutton fat white jade, bluish white jade, and sugar white jade are all good choices. After seeing the real pieces, she finally settled on bluish white jade. A 3-piece set, a jade bracelet, a pendant, and a ring. I said, I'll go to Xinjiang in the next couple of days. Once I bring the jade material back, we can discuss the details. She asked, Xinjiang? Yes. I nodded and said, Chima, Xinjiang. When it comes to fine Haitian jade, Chima is among the best. Elena understood. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, Can I go with you? Huh. She smiled gently. I'm a little curious. And just like that, Elena and I took people from the company and flew to Xinjiang. There were no secrets within the same circle. In just 2 days, rumors spread that Julian the scumbag had hooked up with Elena. I heard them and let them pass. I didn't take them to heart. But Elena directly made a statement. Julian and I are friends. I will hold every rumor monger legally responsible. All at once, no one dared to say it openly anymore. But when it came to gossip behind closed doors, who could go from door to door and stop everyone? But it didn't matter. Who doesn't talk about others behind their backs, and who doesn't get talked about behind their back? Once something new happened, who would still care about old gossip? Chapter 20. No turning back. Vivian barged in while Elena and I were having dinner. Her expression was cold as she sat down without asking. She said, You don't mind one more person, do you? Elena poured a cup of tea, her tone calm. Miss Vance, you came uninvited. Is there something you need? Vivian didn't answer her. She turned her head to look at me and said, Don't mind me. Then she turned back to Elena and gave a cold snort. Eat and drink all you want. Once you're done, go back to wherever you came from. I'm not here for you. Elena laughed softly. Then Miss Vance can leave. Today's dinner is a private arrangement. A private arrangement? Vivian slammed the table and snapped. What kind of relationship do you two have that makes this a private arrangement? Elena was about to speak, but I stood up. I looked at Vivian, pointed at myself, and said, Single. Then I pointed at Elena and said, Available. After that, I said to Elena, The food's getting cold. Shall we eat somewhere else? She stood up naturally and said, Sure, I'll follow your lead. Vivian's expression changed completely. She stared at Elena for a few seconds, then glanced at me. She bit her lower lip hard. In the end, she said nothing and turned to leave. Vivian didn't back down just because things had become difficult. She waited in the lobby of my building. When Elena and I returned, we saw her at once. She raised her head, her gaze stiff. She suddenly stood up, her face pale. Are you two together? Actually, we weren't. Elena lived downstairs from me. I looked at Elena and smiled apologetically. Please go up first. There were some things Vivian and I had to talk about eventually. Elena gave a quiet hum. She said, Call me if anything comes up. Then she slowly left. Vivian's face was still pale. She stared at me, and there were too many emotions tangled in her eyes. Julian, are you and Elena together? I pinched the space between my brows. Vivian, we're already divorced. Julian, she screamed, her voice sounding as if it had been squeezed out of her chest. Julian, answer my question. I said impatiently. Answer what question? Why should I answer your questions? I said you were the one who brought up the divorce. You were the one who signed the divorce agreement. You personally collected the divorce certificate. From that moment on, whatever happens in our lives has nothing to do with each other anymore. And now you're running over here to question me? Do you even have the right, Vivian? I'm standing here right now not because I want to talk about love, hate, or unfinished business with you. I'm telling you to stop bothering me. It's really annoying. After saying that, I lifted my foot to leave. Vivian grabbed my sleeve. She held on tightly, so tightly that her hand was already trembling slightly. She lifted her own hand. On her ring finger, she was still wearing our wedding ring. Her voice trembled as she said, Julian, I was wrong. Can we start over? No. I pulled my hand free. I said, The moment you compared me to another man, there was no turning back for us. She said, I didn't. I laughed. I said, you compared me to Kaido and decided I wasn't as good as him. Actually, I still didn't quite understand. I asked Vivian, who gave you such a massive sense of superiority that you think you get to be so picky? The person you are now is truly stupid, boring, and repulsive. Chapter 21. The Final Rejection. The truth about Vivian and Kaido's relationship was finally exposed by Chloe. Although Kaido had caused a rift between Chloe and Vivian, they had still known each other for so many years, so they continued getting along in that awkward, neither close nor distant way. That day, no one knew what had happened, but Vivian was in a terrible state. She drank a lot. No matter who tried to stop her, it was useless. She drank herself straight into the hospital. When Kaido got the news, he rushed over immediately. He stormed into the ward, pushed Chloe aside, and looked at Vivian with heartache in his eyes. He touched Vivian's forehead, then held her hand. Then he turned around and glared fiercely at Chloe. I don't know which one of you forced Vivian to drink today, but if anything happens to her, I won't let a single one of you off. In that instant, Chloe couldn't quite describe how she felt. There was a sudden realization like everything had finally clicked, and there was also a kind of ironic sense of, so it really was like this after all. She said, the only thing you two haven't done is sleep together, right? Those words were ugly. Kaido's expression changed at once. He gritted his teeth and said, get out. At that moment, Chloe suddenly felt so stupid. Back when Vivian and Julian hadn't divorced yet, Vivian would often attend friends' gatherings with Kaido. Chloe had always said it was because Vivian knew she liked Kaido and wanted to match them up. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she seemed to have been a fig leaf. That feeling was absolutely ridiculous. So Chloe snapped and said, don't tell me you two actually think the whole world is stopping you from being together? How funny. Who in the world even cares about you two? When Chloe said those words, Vivian was already awake. Although she didn't open her eyes, her breathing stopped for a split second. In that instant, her entire body even tensed, and her scalp went numb. She didn't know why she reacted that way. She could only keep her eyes closed and pretend she hadn't heard anything. But Kaido seemed to take those words to heart. He stayed by Vivian's side for the entire night. Over the next few days, he noticed that Vivian seemed to be avoiding him, whether intentionally or not. That made Kaido panic, and when a person's heart is in chaos, they tend to act impulsively. That night, he blocked Vivian's way and said, Vivian, I like you. Vivian heard him, but she wanted to pretend she hadn't. Deep down, she even felt a bit of hatred toward Kaido. Why did he have to say it? Why did he insist on saying it out loud? She stood there, her whole body cold, as if covered in a layer of frost. Kaido didn't understand what she meant, so he decided to go all in. He leaned in directly, about to force a kiss on Vivian. Vivian finally moved. She suddenly raised her hand. With a sharp slap, she struck Kaido across the face. Kaido stepped back twice and looked at Vivian in disbelief. Why? Vivian said expressionlessly, you drank too much. I'll pretend I didn't hear what you said today. But Kaido refused to let it go. He grabbed Vivian and said, why? You clearly like me too. Vivian, we've been through so much together. You helped me. You encouraged me. If you didn't like me, why would you do all that for me? Is it because of Julian? The moment that name came out, Vivian instantly seemed to explode like a powder keg that had been lit. She snapped, don't mention him. Kaido froze. He said, Vivian, he isn't worthy of you. He only met you a little earlier than I did. We've been through so much together. We should be. Shut up, Vivian shouted. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't how it was at all. The love between her and Julian had also been built up little by little through one thing after another. But when had it started? When had Julian become, in the mouths of her best friends, nothing more than a poor social climber who had married up, a man who refused to give, who was stingy and a total turnoff? As if everything between them had been as shallow as a soap bubble. Vivian had listened to it for so long that she eventually believed it too. She felt that Kaido was good in every way. He was handsome, hardworking, ambitious, and could give her emotional validation. As for Julian, he was just a man. It was an absurd feeling, but she had been immersed in it for a very long time. Until Julian suddenly pulled away. In an instant, Vivian felt as if the support beneath her feet had been ripped away, leaving her to fall endlessly. She rejected Kaido, and once again, she fired him. Mark mocked her. Now you're not saying he didn't have it easy anymore? Chapter 22. The Craftsman's Domain. As for the entanglement between Vivian and Kaido, Mark asked me how I felt about it. I said, seeing them like this, I actually feel pretty relieved. Mark burst out laughing. I thought you'd say you didn't care. How could that be possible? I shrugged. I'm not a saint. Actually, Kaido had sent me messages before. He questioned me, asking whether I had been fair to my wife. In the end, it was the same old argument. Vivian had married down by choosing me, and she had suffered for it. Yet I had betrayed her sincerity. He said that if he were me, no matter what, he would never bear to let the girl who once suffered with him lose. Even if they divorced, he would choose to walk away with nothing, leaving gracefully. As for me, I was selfish, narrow-minded, full of schemes, and had no sense of responsibility as a man. To that, all I could say was, that's right, that's me. What was responsibility anyway? What would I need that thing for? Someone like him probably couldn't even afford a divorce lawyer. I ignored Kaido, then I blocked and deleted him. I was busy. The jewelry set for the Vance family had already been completed. I sent it for inspection immediately. NGTC's collector-grade certificate, GRS's supplementary pigeon blood red certificate, and Gubelin's certificate of origin. Every certificate was this jewelry set's identity and confidence. After receiving the certificates, I went straight to the Vance family. When Mrs. Vance saw the finished product, she was very satisfied. Mr. Sterling, this set is even better than I expected. Yes, I said this without the slightest modesty. This Crimson Legend set is also the piece I've been most satisfied with over the past 3 years. Mrs. Vance smiled. She placed the main stone necklace back into the box. Then she said, the final payment has already been transferred by finance. I've received it. I didn't stay long. After drinking 2 cups of tea and chatting briefly about ordinary matters, I got up and took my leave. The pine and crane longevity jade set Elena wanted had also been completed. I added a handheld carving symbolizing lasting fortune and longevity as my own birthday gift. It wasn't large, just the right size to hold in the palm. The edges had been polished round and smooth, and it felt warm and solid in the hand. When the birthday gift was delivered, Elena didn't open it on the spot. The next day, she sent me a message. I like it very much. Thank you. Mark gave a strange, teasing laugh. Does she like the gift, or does she like you? With righteous dignity, I said, do not insult the professional dignity of us craftsmen. A customer's satisfaction was the greatest fulfillment for a craftsman like us. Of course, beyond liking the work, they also had to pay properly. Appreciation was face. Money was substance. Elena gave both. She was a good customer. As for me, I still had a lot of work to do. Outside the window, the sky was almost dark. The lamp on my workbench was still lit. The next batch of design drafts was pressed beneath a paperweight, waiting for me to go through them one by one. Next week, I had to inspect a batch of Colombian emeralds. The sample stones from the mining area were still on the way, and I had no idea how many more days customs clearance would take. I sat down, took a deep breath, and picked up my pen. Beneath my pen was the world where I felt most grounded. Chapter 23, Grounded Radiance. A year went by in the blink of an eye. The studio grew rapidly, moving from the modest loft where I started into a spacious, light-filled atelier overlooking the river. The Colombian Emerald Collection had been a triumph, cementing my name among private collectors who valued genuine artistry over hollow pedigree. In that entire year, not once did I look back over my shoulder. One crisp autumn evening, I stayed late to finish a bespoke sapphire ring. A soft knock broke the quiet hum of the workshop. Elena stepped inside, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. She wore an effortless beige cashmere coat, her smile just as measured and graceful as the day we met, yet softened by months of mutual respect and easy companionship. Over the past year, our business transactions had naturally given way to comfortable dinners, shared industry insights, and an unspoken, steady trust that never once required testing or emotional games. Working late again, Mr. Sterling? She asked, setting a cup near my drafting table. A craftsman's work is never really done, I replied, setting my tools down and taking the warm cup. What brings you by at this hour? My grandmother wore her jade set to the charity gala tonight, Elena said, her eyes curving with genuine warmth. Everyone spent the evening asking which master artisan crafted it. I told them the finest jeweler in the city, but that his time is very expensive. I let out a rare, genuine laugh. Appreciation is face, money is substance. You certainly know how to keep my business thriving. I do, Elena said, stepping closer to look down at the sparkling sapphire on the workbench. Then, her tone shifted slightly, gentle yet direct. Though tonight, I'm not here on business. I looked up. meeting her calm, clear gaze. There were no hidden agendas, no comparisons, no demands for apologies or performative sacrifices. Just two people who stood entirely on their own 2 feet, choosing to share the same space. "Julian," she said softly, "are you free this weekend? No stones to inspect, no workshops to visit. Just dinner. With me." I held her gaze for a moment, feeling the absolute peace that had replaced the noise of the past. The shadows of a 7-year compromise were completely gone, leaving only the quiet strength of what was built from scratch. I smiled, picked up my pen, and capped it for the night. "Single and available," I said, repeating the words that had once closed a door, now opening a new one. "I'll follow your lead."